Yeah, it said that my camera's not working.
Okay, the Hangout is live. Leonie is back. Leonie, say something.
Good evening, Kim and Michelle.
Hi, Leonie. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
I still hear it. Do you still hear it?
I'm not hearing anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim is trying to figure out why her camera is not working.
Okay.
Any ideas about that?
No, the only thing that I would say is when you go to settings, what's under camera? Like the camera icon's the top icon. Is there anything there?
It says HD webcam, 1.3M HD webcam.
Okay, so that it should be working then if it's selected. So I'm not sure.
And it doesn't give me any options to select anything else.
Okay, and your camera icon at the top of your screen, is it red or white?
It's red. It says Hangouts can't use the selected camera without a working camera. The other participants won't be able to see you, but the camera works.
Yeah.
Do you have any other programs open right now that are using a camera?
Let me check. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I had this problem the other day with my son. We were on Skype and that started acting up. And so I went to try to use Facebook video chat and it couldn't start because the camera was still locked into Skype.
Right.
I've closed almost everything.
Oh, wow. And I don't know what's going on with Venita. Very unusual for her to be late. Let me text her. Okay. Oh boy.
Shall we go ahead and start because I'll have to leave in 27 minutes.
Yes, let's go ahead and start. And here comes
to leave early too, Michelle.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I didn't do the reading. I thought I would do it today or yesterday, and my life has not been my own.
Oh, okay. Okay, Leonie, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Kim, did you go out and try to come back in?
I can try that too. I just wanted to see if there was anything else I could close.
Yeah.
Let me try that too. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. Reading our story together. My name is Leonie Smith and I'm tonight's moderator. As we look at Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis-Benn, looking at chapters 22 to 25. Introduce the members of the reading circle. We'll start with you, Michelle.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Logan Michelle Odom here in Brooklyn, New York, with my bright copy of the book, Here Comes the Sun. Welcome.
Venita?
Good evening. My name is Venita Walker. I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome.
And Kim, can you speak?
Hi, I'm Kim, and I'm joining everybody from New York. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. So, as I said, we're looking at chapters 22 to 25. And so we will start with chapter 22. And I'm wondering if we have a volunteer to read the first section.
Sure.
I'll read.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Could things be turning around for Team Dolores? In all seriousness, this week's reading sees a significant shift in attention as we learn more about Dolores, our mommy dearest. Early in chapter 22, Thandi is ironing a green dress used by Dolores in her childhood and kept by her to pass on to her daughters. Daydreaming, Thandi burns the dress irreparably and also turns the attention to her and her ghost-like appearance. Stunned and shocked by witnessing Miss Violet and having her eyes open to the ugliness of being Black and poor, Thandi is further committed to her skin lightening routine and is looking forward to a dance to debut her bottled and bought beauty. Dolores is gathering items to sell as a big ship is coming in. The narrator asks, how would visitors know the real stories behind the faces of the wooden masks they buy to hang on walls, the rag dolls they'd use to decorate unused furniture in their houses, the figurines they'd place on mantles that they can marvel at, then quickly forget? Question 1. Witnessing what's behind the curtain, knowing what the visitors don't know, in a way, share the impact, if any, on how you view your own collections, the collections of others who have gone abroad and whose spaces house the fauna of tourism.
Anybody want to jump in?
Well, let's let Georgette introduce herself.
Yes, welcome, Georgette. Would you do an introduction?
Wait. As you can tell, I'm discombobulated today.
We all are.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm Georgette coming in from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm glad to see all you guys here this week. Sorry I missed last week. It looked like it was so good. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we missed you.
We are glad you're here.
Glad to see you. So turning attention back to question 1, does anyone want to start? Any thoughts?
Well, you made me think about the things that I bought when I went to Japan. I was stationed there, my first duty station in 80, 82, 84. And, all the guys, they were buying electronics. And the things that I purchased, I picked up at shops. And I guess you might call them odd little pieces that I thought represented the people. But don't get me wrong, I got the electronics too because they were cheap and it was great. But like things like a kimono, a really nice kimono, and I wish at the time that I had preserved it better because I came across it, I don't know, a year or two ago, and I'm like, wow, okay, first of all, I'm not getting in this no more. Okay. And two, it made me remember the feelings I had and how much I enjoyed the experience of uh, exploring the culture. Because you're so different, from the Japanese. So it's very obvious. I guess it wouldn't be like me going to a country where the people are brown. I might feel more at home, but um. Hmm. I I didn't. Well, I've seen like documentaries and stuff about the work that goes into those items they made. So I respected them, and I didn't feel like they were just like trinkets. Like the people who came to Dolores's what they call the arcade there, just representing, oh, I went there, I went this place, I got this cup, like south of the border. Like when I was little, everybody had a south of the border cup, and I had never been. Okay, I'm jumping around here, but like that, it's really an
Mhm.
inexpensive item just to mark that I've been to this place. And then, in the military community, people travel all sorts of places. So I've had friends who have been, to Europe. So they've been to Germany, and the thing to buy were these shrunks, which heavy wooden furniture to keep, your items in, which, or they buy, like mugs or the china, or if like friends who had been deployed to, say, the Philippines, they would get bought, they would get gold. So that was the thing to get, because that represented, oh, I'm going here to this place where I can get something that's really valuable where I'm from, but cheap here. So, like, it's not a part of you,
Mhm.
but it's marking perhaps a status, a status symbol saying I've been there and I purchased these items. But well, my life's been kind of strange these past 10 years. So I've kind of gone on a journey where I'm not so tied to material items anymore. So
Mhm.
they don't mean the same thing they did to me when I had them, when I purchased them, because I guess I'm really very aware of, well, if I lost it, if something happened, had a fire or a flood, or I was displaced, would I allow that to crush me? So things represent many different things to different people. And then the other thing is, don't buy stuff because it might have a curse on it. Because I've seen, uh, I watch a lot of horror movies, and Asians do that a lot. Okay. There's always some cursed item that some tourist buys and they take it home and their life falls apart. So yeah, that's my comment on that question.
Thanks, Georgette.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, I have managed to lose everything in my life, Georgette, and it is a crushing experience that I'm still not over. Um, Now I'm getting the echo, Leonie.
Mm.
Uh,
I'm not hearing it, just so you know.
oh, okay. So I don't know. But what I think is interesting about that question and interesting about that passage in the chapter is, I don't know that I've ever given much thought to the people who create the items that we collect, during our travels. So it is kind of interesting. I think that's maybe why people are like kind of not knowing exactly what to say with this question, because you kind of really have to have thought about the people, and their lives, their stories, beyond even just the mechanics of what goes into making an item. Um, so I guess, thank you for leading us to think about that, Leonie.
That's great. I love the comments so far. So unless someone else has moved, we can move on to the next question.
Well, is your question, what did you think about it?
I think the piece that so the thing is, even when I travel, I'm never a tourist. So I just don't do that thing. So I don't have collections, you know. It's like I was saying to the people that I'm staying with when I go to England in the summer, I'm like, yes, I'm coming to England, and yes, I'm staying there, I'm staying in London, but like, I don't need to see Big Ben, and I don't want to go to the Eye, and I don't want any of that stuff. I'm not a tourist, so I don't, and I'm not a collector of things. Period. So, the piece that, and I haven't resolved this, but the piece that comes up to me that's like curious is we talked early in a couple of weeks ago about how Dolores is an artist and how it gets reduced to like a tchotchke. So it's just this idea of like somebody, someone's personal expression getting reduced to that piece, and not seen as valuable or whatever. It's a little sad, but and I recognize too that in terms of collecting things from other places, because I don't do that, I don't get the value of it. So I recognize, I don't sit in judgment of people who do it, but I just know that it's not really like my thing. I don't understand what people gain from it. So, I mean, I don't even take pictures of myself when I go somewhere else. Like, it's like, yes, at one point, it's like, yes, I know. It's like, yes, at one point I was standing near whatever this thing is. And so, yeah.
You're so unusual. You're not the usual millennial person.
Yeah. I'm not a millennial. Do you think I was a millennial?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not going to ask you how old you are.
I'm 45 and like.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Really? Oh, that's great genetics, girlfriend. Oh, you look great. Well, and congratulations on your upcoming birthday.
But I think it's Georgette said status symbol, and I guess for some people that may be it. But for me, and I never had a lot of that kind of stuff, even though I traveled a lot. It was just the memories that when you look at something, and it brings back memories, of places you've been, things you've done, and so much of life when you're Black and poor, it's just work.
Yeah.
It's drudgery, just and so I think it's good to be reminded that at some point somewhere you did take the time. The time.
I think that's part of my mindset too, is because I grew up with very little money. Like, I remember being stunned the first time walking to like a middle class person's home and seeing that like they put like wallpaper up on the walls. And I grew up in rental apartments. We weren't allowed to paint. No, we weren't allowed to paint, put up wallpaper. We didn't have tchotchkes. And I used to be like, I can't believe people spend their money on this. So like, it comes from like just not my. It's just not been my experience. So.
Yeah.
I don't collect. Whenever I go places, I'm not a collector of trinkets. I don't do touristy collections of anything. What I like, I really can't take with me, because the first thing I want to do is visit every museum that I can possibly. And whenever we go somewhere, I set that agenda. We can do whatever you want after we visit museums, whether they're cultural museums. I got to visit the Black museums is there. I got to visit the Asian. I got to visit all the museums. And unless I can pick those museums up, because I love art and culture, there's nothing else that I want. So I never really collect anything unless I can bring a museum back with me. I remember being a little girl and going to museums. I've always I've never been in all the people's homes. And I mean, you know, the homes are made of lumber. Either you use more lumber to make a bigger home, you use less lumber to make a smaller home. But I've never been a person, no matter where I am, to go, ooh, ah, because I've never been impressed with that. Unless you happen to have a good piece of art on your wall. I probably won't notice anything else in your house. But if you have a piece of art that attracts me, that will probably be the only thing I will remember. So I never buy anything like trinkets, you know, little things to bring back. Once in a while, I'll get a T-shirt, only if it's 100% organic cotton. It just happens to feel good. It might have somebody's name on it, but I really bought it because it was cotton and it felt good. You know, I can wear it to bed at night, you know, and I'll use it. It won't be a trophy. I'll be sleeping at night, you know. But I never understood those people. I got people that you go to their homes and they actually have this shrine of things, like little, like it's like those wedding things that people give you. Like, why? And then you have to say thank you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off the topic, but one thing leads to another. I hate trinkets and curios and things, little things. I'm not a little thing person.
Well, I think I'm going to lower the real estate value of this conversation. Everywhere I go, I pile up stuff. I love visiting any place that has something to do with the African diaspora or Native Americans. So if there's something I can do that's a part of our culture, man, they see me coming. It's like a big sign that says sucker. And so I remember when I was in Senegal, West Africa, and they had this whole enterprise where they make artwork that looks like it was aged so that tourists will believe that it was antiques or part of African rituals. So I had this pipe that was supposed to be made smoked by a king, and it was covered in snake skin. So the snake skin started to peel a little bit, and underneath where the snake was, it was brand new wood. And I was saying to myself after I'm back here in Brooklyn, I'm like, well, how come the whole thing is not ancient? So I just love buying our stuff. I'm gonna have to take you guys' lead and try not to buy so much, but I do know that was a livelihood and that's a business. Selling to tourists in West Africa is a business that you're trying to buy a piece of them, and that your need to own a piece of them puts food on their table. And so I was trying not to be mad at them, but at the same time, just let me know it's bogus. You know, don't try to my sister, my American sister, you're back to Africa, and then all of a sudden you're selling me bootleg stuff.
No, Tim, they reserved that pipe that was smoked by that king just for when Kim pulled up.
But I did also buy some genuine artifacts. So I should have no reason to believe that if you're in the town center that you're gonna find an artifact.
Okay.
So some of that is your greed and gullibility kind of gets the best of me. So
I love you, Kim. You make me smile.
Yeah.
So anywhere I go, I'm buying something.
Well,
I'm going to the tourist sites. I'm taking pictures.
Okay.
So I just brought the rent down. The rent value's down for this whole conversation.
No, that's all right. You're supporting Black business. It's cool.
All right, I'm gonna move us on because there's a lot of questions.
Okay.
It's because I'll go ahead and read the second one. Dolores is devastated when she discovers Thandi's bleached skin. She's described as shaking like a tree branch as she grabs hold of Thandi, and she experiences this as a personal rejection. You see how me black and stay? How Yifa turned white with a black mother, eh? And part of her devastation seems to come from discovering that Thandi doesn't see all that she is. 2, is it easy to imagine Black girls and women in your life who don't see all that they are? 3, what do you imagine or has been the impact on you? 4, what would you like to say to Thandi or others like her in that moment?
Well, we better get your response, Leonie, before you have to leave.
Yeah. Very easy to imagine. I mean, I don't. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday who's Asian American, and we were talking about like anywhere you go in the world, we know that white is like the thing to be, no matter where you are. It's like white is just like it's universal, and everything else is like a problem in some way. So very easy to imagine. You know, skin bleaching is a very common thing that happens, and not just amongst Black people. And I think the piece that I would like to tell everybody is that, like, well, here's the thing. I don't know how much telling people, I don't know how effective words are and letting people know that they are fine as they are, because the culture is just so anti-female and there's just always this expectation that women are meant to kind of like fold and bend and shape their way into some kind of existence where they could be seen as legitimate and okay. So I think it's really about how you live. I think there's something to be said to be in the presence of a confident woman. Um, and it's probably the only thing that can counter the kind of messaging that you see. You know, you look at all the iconic Black women who are around now. None of them have their own hair. Some of them have their own eye color. You wouldn't recognize their skin color if you took off scrape the makeup off them. They don't dress themselves. So that's a lot to battle with. But it's a reminder to take a stand in who you are as a woman, as a Black woman. That's my piece.
Thank you. And Kim?
Yeah.
Kim, are you still there?
I'm still here.
What time are you leaving, Kim?
7:20.
Oh, okay.
But I guess my mind is stuck on the fact that if my daughter is bleaching her skin, it's not going to be a big reveal at my house. I would have had some indication that her nose is no longer chocolate and it's now caramel, when it went from caramel to ivory. Like I don't understand how the writer could ask us to believe that Dolores was so in her own world, and that skin bleaching is something that you can do under somebody's nose without them noticing it over the course of weeks. So
Dolores and Margot.
Huh?
Dolores and Margot.
That's right. That's right. So I get stuck there, and I understand how, had she not seen her in a couple of months and saw her, then I could say, yeah, I see her talking about how could you believe this if you have a Black mother? But I got lost in it. It took me out of the writing. It took me out of the story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was, that ran across my mind too. I mean, I guess maybe Dolores doesn't really see her, even though she's standing there. Because I was wondering how you could be her mother and you do see her every day. and you just realize out the blue that your child is 2 shades lighter in a hot climate like Jamaica.
So has the girl been wearing cellophane on her face too? There's a plastic on the face.
Kim.
I know that's the way my mind works. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know.
Good point, but you got to go along with the plot device.
Okay.
Yeah, and Venita, you always saying Dolores, only sees Thandi as an object to grow up and take care of her. So maybe she really doesn't see her.
And that's the way I feel about Dolores. I just don't see Dolores having any. She just sees through her, She just sees she's just an object. I don't think Dolores has any feelings one way or the other. So I don't even understand how she was even devastated about anything. Period. Because I just think she simply sees Thandi as she saw Margot as a means to justify the end.
Yeah.
And whatever the end may be at that time. For Thandi, obviously it's going to be her retirement end. For Margot, it's just that every day we need some bread on the table. So I'm suspicious of Dolores. I'm just so suspicious of her all the time.
Well, you bring up a good point there. Because sometimes as we learn more about Dolores, she acts like a mother. And sometimes she just acts like your pimp.
Yes.
And other times she is just so disturbed, committing child abuse, parent elder abuse, that perhaps she is kind of a little schizo, affective, and she probably only does see Thandi in the image that she wants to see. I think there was some kind of it was a hypothesis about the American Indians and why when I think when the Spanish came, they didn't see them because they'd never seen ships before, which I don't believe. I just don't believe that. But hey, why not? The mind is very powerful. And if you don't believe in a thing, you can't really see all that it is, perhaps. And so maybe she didn't want to see what was in front of her eyes. I mean, when you force yourself to not see your child being sexually abused and you explain that away to yourself because it happened to you can probably, she probably explained that, her seeing Thandi, looking a little different away to herself also. And she seems to be a very preoccupied, self-preoccupied person. Everything is about Dolores in Dolores's world. So, but then, yeah, and then getting to the question, I guess, words have to be, oh, yeah, we lost Leonie. Words.
No, well, she had to leave early anyway. Yeah.
I guess words are one thing, but look at the campaign, Black Girls Rock and other initiatives that have, been introduced in our communities, and yet we still have this problem of colorism going on. So we have words, we have people demonstrating, the can't get out, successful woman who is comfortable in her skin, but still you have that other voice in your ear, like it's in Thandi's ear, that you have to be light and bright. Your hair's got to look a certain way. You have to talk a certain way to achieve anything in the world that you're trying to become a part of. So the definition of success has to be changed for people who think it's all about this outer representation. That's not you. That's just a vessel. And until that comes home, you know, to drown out the voices of media and everything they see and everything their friends say to them. And I'm talking about other countries too. You know, you look at the Hispanic channels and the ladies who are on the news, okay, they're light. We know we got brown Hispanics, we got brown Latinas, where they at? Okay. We got brown Cubans, but we don't see the brown Cubans. We see the Anglo Cubans. We see the Anglo Jewish people, Jewish women. We don't see the brown Jewish women. You know, it's like that is the face of the conqueror is who we need to aspire to be, and that's who we're going to keep putting up front, uh, in front of the camera on the movie screen. That's the one who, has the happy ever after ending in the movie theater, who's chosen by the hero because of who owns the message. So until we change the owner of the message, we can't change what happens in the minds of our young women all over the world. So,
Go ahead, Georgette.
yeah. What'd you say, Kim?
I said, go ahead. You go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, there's a revolutionary down in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really a deep problem. Like I'm thinking about, I probably told you all this story at some other point, but a white one of my white male friends told me a couple of years ago that all the white women in New York are changing their nose to look the same. And it's become like a big thing on their 16th birthday to get this nose job. Now, I hadn't noticed because, I'm not really a visual person anyway. And I don't really pay attention to what white women are doing. So, but when he told me that, I started looking at white women and all these noses started looking the same to me. So, I think it's a special problem when racism is involved, and so we've got that layer, but I think all of us are bombarded with these messages that there's really just one way to be, one way to look, one way to act, one way to think, and if you don't fit that box, and most people don't fit that box, then you gotta go through these extraordinary changes in order to try to fit into that box. And then that's where capitalism comes in.
That's right.
Then having people who lack the self-confidence to believe in their own worth, their own value, their own beauty, is then a profit-making opportunity for all kinds of capitalists. And so they feed that insecurity in people, so that they can then sell you the products that will help you fit this box that we're told everybody needs to fit in. And so the further outside that box you are, like if you have Black skin, the more you are expected to do. Like, it turns my stomach when I think about the amount of money that Black women spend on hair care. You know, I mean, we're talking about spending money on tchotchkes, you know, but that's a once in a while, every now and then, when we're traveling kind of expense. But the money that goes into hair care is staggering. And, you know, and what really is at the bottom of it, other than us not feeling that what nature gave us was good enough, you know? And so once you have somebody feeling like that, then I guess you can sell them anything. So that's what I would like to say to Thandi and others like her. And to question number 2, yes, I can imagine, because I've known many Black girls and women in my lifetime who don't have a sense of what their potential is, what their capacity is. Because just as we've seen Dolores beating it out of her children, especially Margot, you know, that kind of thing is what happens. Childhood is, you know, you're lucky if you survive it at all. But so to survive it with your self-esteem intact, to survive it, you know, feeling that you're worthy of anything out of this life is a pretty amazing thing. But I think Margot, you know, Margot gave Thandi, you know, a good piece of advice when she said to her, you know, when you believe you are beautiful, other people will believe it too. And, you know, I guess that's what we all have to learn, how to believe in ourselves.
That was great.
Yes, it was.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Questions 2 to 4.
I don't know what I could say. I just don't think I could find the words to say anything, to be honest with you. I've seen so much when it comes to colorism. And white America has used that to cause us to hate each other. You know, I've seen, and it's just so sad, it just hurts me so bad. You know, and then we turn, and then, you know, I don't know what you could say. I just don't know what to say, because it's so personal and it's so innate. It has a lot to do with socioeconomics, mind you. Now, it depends on.
Well, you have a little chocolate girl in your life, and you're always telling her how beautiful she is.
Every day. I have to. Because she's fat. First of all, she is fabulous, period. She is like so brilliant. She's 2 years old and she talks like you and I. She has big, beautiful eyes. She is gorgeous. But I have this little fetish. I'm going to share it with you girls.
And the world.
And the world. I got this thing with dark skin that just turns me on. I'm not the person to talk to about that. I always, no, I really, Michelle would tell you, I just have this thing. I've always like just admired dark women. I've always thought they were so pretty. My grandmother was very, very dark. My mother's mother. She was very, very, very dark. But she was so beautiful. She had skin like velvet. I used to look at my grandmother and just like be in awe. you know, her skin was like so flawless. It looked like velvet. Not, you know, it's just like so perfect. And she had like thick hair and wavy, and she had these pretty white teeth, and she had these lips that was kind of like a brownish color, you know, where you don't need no lipstick type thing. You know, you just always had that look. And she had pretty eyes. I don't know. I just always had this fixation with dark skinned people. Quite frankly, I just think they're beautiful. I just feel sorry. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I've always envied them. I look at that dark skinned girl, and I've always envied them. I've always thought they were like so stunning. I mean, you know, I just like thought I'm just a plain Jane, and I just really think I was just there. And I'm talking to the wrong person. And you're talking to the wrong person, because I said I love dark skinned people. Actually, I wish I was dark. They're just gorgeous. And it's so sad. I tell Addison I always tell Addison, because she is so pretty, and not just pretty first. She's smart, extremely intelligent baby. So it makes her, you know, just even more gorgeous. She has very kinky, you know, very coarse hair, curly like coarse hair. You could do all kinds of stuff to her. You could put the afro puffs, and she just looks like she's just gorgeous. And I just feel so sad when I see
Dolores.
that.
Dolores would have been trying to whoop your behind if you were trying to tell one of her daughters she was pretty.
Yeah. And so that's another thing. That's the other side of it. I remember going to school in elementary school in Philadelphia, and I was blessed enough to go to an all-black school. The principal was black, the vice principal was black, music teacher, gym teacher, you know, everyone was black. And so I never really was faced with that, but I do remember it was always colorism, period. I had it in my family. You know, I've seen it. It's so ugly. It's just like so nasty. I mean, it's just nasty. I can't even think of a word for it. It's just so, who does that? But I saw it in my family. I saw it in school. And it would make the darker skinned little girls feel very hostile towards the fair skinned little girls. So they would actually, it was a little group of girls called, and I hate to say this, you know, the words, but it actually was, they called them attack heads. And they were these darker skinned girls that would gang together and come up to, you know, different schools, and they would corner the little fair skinned girls and cut their hair.
What?
No, this is the city of Philadelphia. This is, you know, back in the 60s. And because there was so much hostility, because, you know, what do you think is going to happen? You know, it's like oppressing any group of people. And I'm saying group because they're darker, you're brown, you're fair. And then what do you think is going to happen? They get so upset and so hurt and, you know, and so angry. Well, they turn on other little girls. Call you half-breed. You think you cute. You know, all kinds of stuff. And it's a white society that's got us so going so bad. They just, you know, they just make us hate each other. And it's horrible. It's just horrible. And even Dolores, I feel sad for her. I had to dig way down here, but I understand what Dolores, no, I really did. But Dolores, you know, she's been treated so badly because she was a dark-skinned girl with a wide nose. You know, I used to always look at my nose because they call me pug nose because everybody had keener nose in my family, and my nose is like I'm a koala.
No, it doesn't.
No, but this just shows you all the little insecurities that the kids have.
Yeah.
And I used to always just like hate to smile because I have a round nose like my grandmother. And everybody else got the keener nose, and I'm the only koala.
Venita, Isabel.
No, but I'm just telling you that everybody, you know, all the insecurities, just all the little things you think about. But I did have, I saw a lot of colorism in my family with my, and even when I was a little girl, I knew it was wrong. It just made me so mad. You know, like who thinks of that? I mean, who actually thinks of that? Like you're dark and you're brown and you're this and you're that and your hair's coarse, and who thinks of that? Is it me, Michelle? Something?
No, but I want to move us on. I think we've kind of gotten around questions 5 and 6 kind of flowed into that discussion. So Venita, why don't you read chapter 23, read through all the way through question 8.
Margot says to Thandi. Is that Thandi or Tandy? You pronounce it different. I say Thandi.
It's Thandi, but go down to where chapter 23 starts.
Okay, chapter 23. A depressed Verdine makes her way to the market. The entire trip is a trial with endless harassment on her journey there. She is treated like a living, breathing, walking John Kroll. Yet she also seems to be willing to play the game. She asked, "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" In her crisp British accent. Some would say she invites more abuse when she decides, after briefly deliberating, to approach Dolores in the market. Number 7, how do you see Verdine's choice here? Is it too confronting? Is this her just standing up for herself? Verdine notices that they touch the bills only with the tips of their fingers. This is in the market. It's almost as if the people in the market cannot afford any more curses in their life. Number 8, discuss what you think may be the source of their fear. Is it prejudice? Is it trauma?
Thank you. Kim, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off now. I just wanted to say good night to everybody.
Good night, Kim.
Okay, good night, Kim.
Have a good one, everybody.
Hey, you too.
Okay.
Okay. Georgette, were you able to read these chapters?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I was going to give a little summary because Kim had not done the reading, but we all know what this scene was with Verdine.
Yeah.
So what do you all think?
Good choice.
I think she made a mistake. You know the people. You know.
What was a good choice, Venita?
I think she needed that for her. It might have been a good choice. I mean, if I might not have done that, but I just think Verdine needed that.
Are you talking about when she was saying to the men, is there a problem, gentlemen? Or are you talking about when she asked Dolores?
No, I'm saying that when she asked the men, "Is there a problem, gentlemen?"
Mm-hmm.
Verdine is so complicated. Verdine is very insecure. I don't think she was inviting confrontation. I think that she was just being Verdine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Verdine was taking a step outside that box, and that was just not the day. For anyone to make Verdine even imagine that she was less than.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that Verdine, she needed that. She needed to stand up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's always consequences, but I think that day she was ready.
Okay.
We've seen Verdine throughout the story just sit back in this kind of mousy, almost passive, almost what I am and what people say I do and what I am is what defines me. I got to pay for the rest of my life type thing. And I was like clapping, go Verdine. So that's my assessment. What you think, Georgette?
Well, I love that her confronting what's his name when he's grabbing his nuts. I love that, and I had hope for her to continue, in that strength throughout, doing what she had to do. But I think she got lost in her emotions when
Mm-hmm.
she approached Dolores, because now
Oh.
she's thinking about Margot and there's
Mm-hmm.
something going on with her heart, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So forgetting what kind of evil person Dolores could be.
Well, that was a bad
And
move, Georgette. Now, the
yeah,
Dolores part was definitely a bad move. I wouldn't mess with
yes,
Dolores.
yes, yes.
Mm-mm.
And so, you know, she has her force field up and it begins to crack when she says something she probably should have kept to herself. You know, well, you, what kind of mother, you know, talking about what kind of mother, Dolores, you talk to anybody. You can talk to the worst person in the world. Everybody knows they're a terrible person. But if you bring that out in public, you are like inviting a fight. So that was an invitation
Yeah.
for some extra
So
stuff.
are you all saying that Verdine deserved the backlash that she got?
Oh no, nobody
No.
deserves to be castrated in
No.
public like she was, you know, and then everybody's cheering. You already know everybody's against you, right? Because they're thinking that you're evil, you know, an abomination, you know, not like they don't do bad stuff, you know, or just different or in their own way of, you know, and not letting people just be human.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the question, and then the question brings up some good points I hadn't considered about their trauma. Okay, why are they picking on this one person because they're different, or because maybe their mannerisms represent the oppressor? Because she had, you know, her accent, and she's
Mm-hmm.
lighter,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the way she's regal, the way she carries herself,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, even though she kind of like you said, Venita, is insecure. She says she doesn't walk where her hips lead her like the rest of the women,
Mm-hmm.
and but that's a different kind of confidence. So why do they walk that way? Okay, and then why does Verdine walk the way she walks? Was it because she went away to school, or because, you know, she had to have a stiff back to take all the jabs that they were
Mm-hmm.
poking at her because of who they thought she was? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very curious. But people, gangs, you know, like you were describing that situation with the tech kids, being that's what they normally do. They pick on whoever they looks like they're weakest, like sharks in the water. Oh, there's blood. Who's weak? We're gonna jump on, you know, this vulnerable party over here. And so I think she did good. You know, I was loving it when she knocked. Okay, so unfortunately, she didn't look where she was going. She knocked the birds down from what's his face,
Right.
right? And she's like, "Oh, you broke my birds," blah blah blah. So she could have turned around and said, "Look, brother, I'll pay for them. Okay, chill." But she was already, you know, she'd already used up all her courage at that point, I think. And so now all her emotions and her psyche was all off kilter. So she couldn't get it together, turn around, say, "Look, brother, calm down. Here's some money. Take your birds and get out my face." Mush. No, she couldn't do that. And her basket had fallen. And now, you know, the image, you know, that she had put together on her way out the door, armed with her mother's basket, right? The long dress to cover everything. So she would look the part. You know, her guise is gone now, and she can't regroup. And then when Mother Gracie hands her the apple, and she's like, you know, and then she hits her in the back of the head with it, I'm like, "Look, old girl, it's been, you know, but hey, that's me." You know, if she could twist that dude's arm behind his back, you know, and that's where we
Right.
learned that she had been protecting her mother by taking hits of, you know, from her abusive father. You know, it'd have been like, "Look, unless y'all want me to break this arm, you better back up. Everybody back up right now." But it'd been a different story. No,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so she did good,
I,
and I was cheering her on, and then her frailty came through. You know, her weakness was, I really want these people to either like me or just leave me alone, but they're hating on me.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know, she didn't
Yeah.
have. And then when she gets back, okay, I'm not going to say another thing because Michelle done told me not to talk about. But when we do get the announcement,
I,
She
I
took a
guess
stand. She took a
for
stand. See, that's
me,
why
yes,
I'm giving her
yes,
credit. It took
yes.
every ounce of strength of energy that Verdine had. And at that point, she'd exhausted everything she had. But she took that stand. If it was only for a second, she said that my name is Verdine, and I am tired of being beat down.
Yeah.
So by the time she got to the little basket scene where, she fumbled and she exhausted everything she had. Imagine Verdine. It took everything she had to get that little bit out. She's not me and you, Georgette. We'd have more to go. That's why she would have been turned down or no. And Michelle, they'd have left this by the time Michelle would have talked to them people. Everybody left that market.
They'd been giving you fruit, Michelle. Here, please
Michelle went
go.
out
Please
there
go now.
and told them some stuff, and she'd have stand in the middle of that market. By the time she got done, she'd have cleared that whole market. So my baby Michelle, she ain't the fighting type. But let me tell you something. You want to get into some reading and some talking about some shit. Michelle would have gave him a history lesson in the middle of that. And that'll last about an hour. Next thing you know, Dolores, everybody would have packed up and they said, look, I'm going to leave her alone. And Michelle would have never lifted a finger. Michelle would have not lifted a finger.
Okay.
That's why I love Michelle. She would not lift a finger, but she'd have cleared that park. That have cleared it out.
But I don't know that I would have been so bold as to be asking Dolores about Margot. I do not know why Verdine did it. I mean, I guess from her perspective, it was just an innocent question. And maybe Verdine didn't really know how much Dolores has hated Verdine since Margot was a little girl.
Yeah.
Just because Verdine had told Margot she was pretty. I don't know if Verdine really realized that Dolores hated her like that. And so I guess if you don't realize it, then it's kind of a natural, innocent question, how's your daughter? But like Dolores was saying, don't be coming up here talking to me like we're friends.
Dolores don't have any friends. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I really, it's hard to understand why Verdine did that at all. But one of the things that's interesting to me about this book, and I guess it's what Nicole calls the show Don't Tell and the Sight Beyond Sight, in that really as you go through the book, Nicole Dennis-Benn doesn't label anything. She doesn't call rape. She doesn't call sexual abuse. She doesn't call elder abuse. She doesn't call gentrification. She's not putting labels. She's not putting right or wrong or judgment on anything. And it has the effect of forcing the reader to kind of look at the events and, draw your own conclusion about the rightness, the wrongness, or what to even call. So that scene in the market with Verdine, like I just heard Georgette say a minute ago, castration in public. But I'm trying to really think of what is the word to describe the kind of community torture, that terrorism that Verdine has experienced all along in this story. And that scene in the market was just, so ugly to me, so violent, so like a whole community of people without the capacity for empathy for another human being. So looking at question 8, what is the source of their fear? I don't know. I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I see it here in sometimes you'll go in a store and there's a whole style now of not touching your fingers, of if they're going to give you back a dollar bill and they put the coins in the middle of the dollar bill so they can kind of shove it to you, and it does feel like an experience in racism. It may just be a more efficient way of handing back money, but since it hasn't always been like that, it definitely feels like something is happening. So, but I don't know who was it? You, Venita, or Georgette, that said, well, because she's light skinned and because she's got this foreign air about her, and
Gay. That's a bad combination in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And at some point, that is a bad combination here. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, this country has become more accepting, but this is just different characters and different actors.
Right.
This is nothing new. That was a bad combination. She speaks proper English.
Yeah.
She has a proper swagger, and what they call proper is speaking English, using verbs and adjectives and, those type of things. And if she's light skinned with the good hair, and you're looking at people that are oppressed, even if she was poor, like some of the other, as poor as them, it would still be a problem. If she wasn't gay, it would still be a problem. Because of the colorism. She been the light skin with good hair. So now she's a light skin with good hair, with a couple more dollars, a better house than her mama left her. And she gay.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
What is that, jealousy?
I think it's a combination of that. I think it's more jealousy than prejudice. Minus the gay. You got the jealousy first, and then the homophobic environment or atmosphere there. So, and it's very homophobic. And that's why a lot of countries and islands are homophobic. That's why they come to the United States of America, because it's now, things are changing. And they say, well, we don't have that where we are. No, because everybody leave and they coming here.
Right.
Where they can have more freedom. Now, we think, of course, the people that are gay still have, they're fighting like heterosexuals that all kinds of things that has nothing to do with being gay, just, socioeconomics, all kinds of stuff. But the fact is that you have more freedoms here, but they're very homophobic. So she has a lot to deal with.
Saw a video today, apparently Cynthia Nixon, that used to play the lawyer on Sex and the City.
Yeah.
Is thinking about running for the governor of New York. And it was saying in the video, if she won, she would be the first openly gay governor, of the state. So things are still changing here, but we're still working on first. Just like we're working on first African American to do XYZ.
I'm so tired of first. I'm so tired of labels. I'm so tired of first.
Yeah,
first. I'm tired of
it's a slow process.
It's bad. But once again, you're not on an island. You are not on an island, and I can only imagine what Verdine. It took so much.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine what she's going through. And when they castrate you, you are castrated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no way for you to turn. In your neighborhood, you go to the store. I mean, they shun. It's like this. You just
Ostracized, isolated.
I mean, totally. They don't leave not an ounce of nothing left to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, they're physically violent. Like gay people here have experienced violence, terrible violence.
Yeah.
But you guaranteed in the places that confine, it's not, that a lot of stuff go. Verdine, I do have some compassion, a lot of compassion for Verdine. I really do. And that she did when she asked Dolores, that was a big move. Because, just Dolores, I'm surprised the child got out there alive.
It was close.
I said, girl, you talking to Dolores.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Verdine, girl, she take that good hair. You may not have none. You don't know Dolores like that. I was scared for her. At first, my heart was pounding because I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, because, Dolores, she got some stuff for her. She don't care about you like that. Even if she ain't like you, she don't care about you like that.
Yeah.
I was really scared for her. But then I said, okay, you made it through. You didn't get killed. But girl, don't do that no more. You felt good today, but don't try that again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she learned the lesson that day.
I think she did. I think she got it out. But she's like, shh, I made it home.
Yeah.
She had 2 little victories wiped out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it wasn't prejudiceness. I don't think. I think it was a lot was jealousy first.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it was jealousy first. So she had a lot to deal with.
Well,
Anyways,
let's
24.
Let's move on. Georgette, would you read chapter 24 all the way through question 11, and I'll be right back.
Okay. In chapter 24, we delve deeper into Dolores' thinking, her history, and maybe even the source of her fear. There is a scene described with Dolores where play turned into sexual abuse, with the final pinch leading to Margot's birth when Dolores was 13. We learned this after reading a puzzling intolerance Dolores has, punishing Margot for smiling, abusing her own child with pinches to teach her the lesson of not taking compliments. Dolores is also a disappointment for being female to her mother, holding vigil for a son that will never return. 9. Discuss the cycle of abuse and its application here. 10. Do you imagine the interventions that are available in to African American women to be the same or different than for women such as Dolores? And 11. What can we do in our families and communities to change the record that devalues the lives of women and girls? Yeah. Yeah, those were some hard revelations. But they explain so much.
It's just different characters. It's the same story. It's different place with different characters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And I've seen this too many times. How do we break that cycle?
Yes.
How? Do you imagine interventions that are available to Afro-American women to be the same or different than women such as Dolores? The United States is a big place, and it varies.
Mm-hmm.
There are places right here in this country where you would think that you're on an island. They don't have resources. Some areas have more resources than others. There's some areas right in this country that don't really have resources for Afro-American women.
Yeah.
And girls. There are a lot of resources that are disguised as resources in the United States of America that can do as much damage, more damage they can do help for Afro-American women and girls. So I don't really know how much, depending on where you are and what the resources might be, if a lot of women and girls have same or different interventions than Dolores. That's why we have to work so hard.
Huh. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's why it's so much work to do, because there's a lot of women that don't have it.
Yeah. And then even if it's available, too afraid, how do you come to the realization that it's not your fault?
Well,
You know?
yeah.
Because I think that's what keeps a lot of, you know, just people from going to find help.
Yes.
And trust issues. I mean, just imagine. I mean, every scene that described or unveiled more abuse made me think, ooh, how are these women even functioning? Okay.
They're not.
They just surviving. Yeah.
They're
They just
surviving.
surviving.
They're in survival mode 24/7, whether it's Dolores, whether it's Meryl, her mother.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure she went through some stuff. And now Dolores went through some stuff with Meryl. And she's surviving. She's trying to survive Dolores at this point, much less the stuff she's been through. She has to survive Dolores' anger. And now you got Margot going through her thing, and she has to survive Dolores' anger. And Thandi has to survive Dolores. You know, it's just a vicious cycle. The question is, where do you start?
Yeah.
And depends on geographically where you're located in the United States. Remember, we have another thing called religion in our country, like we have on islands. Now, it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
So you have that to deal with. And the islands are a very religious place, colonialism. Yes. Very religious. It's still deeply will prey on. So you got that in one hand. Think about Verdine. Religious people, no matter what they do, they still religious people.
Yeah, because Jesus told me to put this dead dog in your yard.
Right. It don't make a difference. It don't make a difference. Yes. They are still religious people. They still hang on to that Bible. While they doing like this, they hang on that Bible and say,
Right.
It's the truth. And so, you know, that's a lot when you have those two forces to get working together. You're dealing with the devil on one hand and dealing with the Lord the other. I don't know where to start.
That's the cycle of control.
Control.
Yeah.
It's some of it. It's almost seemed like it's okay because I can make it okay because that's what I had to do at the time. So what I don't pray on over here for the Lord to provide, He provided me with a daughter that can provide something that can provide. I mean, it's so heavy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The reason is so deep. You just don't know where. It's just hard to wrap your head around all of it. It's a lot of stuff.
It is, and Dolores, you know, she has a particular problem of blaming others.
Oh yes.
You know, for whatever her situation is. So instead of blaming, who was it, Uncle?
Uncle, yeah.
That got Dolores pregnant.
Yes.
instead of blaming him, she's blaming Margot, you know, taking out her pain and frustration and hatred on this child. You know, she was trying to kill Margot when Margot was a baby.
Yeah.
Yes. Which just speaks volumes about how really damaged she
is.
was. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand, you know. Well, and then I because I've heard this, and then I saw it sort of in my mother's, how her relationship with my older sister, that the representation of your pain and abuse is hard for you to love. So, and I mean, my sister looks exactly like her dad. And so that every time my mother looked at her, and my sister loved her to death, you know, she wanted to abuse my sister. Right? And you don't understand these things until you grow up, and you hear the pieces start being put together, and you hear other stories, and you're like, oh, that's why she was doing that crazy stuff.
Right.
Because she had been damaged. And so instead of not being able to disassociate from the event, that caused and wrecked your life, and that people, blame on you, you put it all in this one person who is under your entire control, looking at you for love, depending on you for everything. But since you are now the boss in this situation, you just do with them what you want, what you will,
Right. It's really a very common problem.
It certainly is.
To blame the wrong person. And so in terms of question 11, somehow I think we have to figure out ways to help people, especially little people, process what they are experiencing, what they're going through, and help them put it in some kind of a context where they don't have to keep repeating the patterns of what they went through. So, you're not going to do anything at this stage. I mean, it's not impossible, but the hope for our future is not in somebody of Dolores's age. It's even doubtful that you can do much with somebody like Margot, who I think is 30. Thandi, you might still be able to save, to help. But we've got to look at how we're raising our children. What damage we're doing to their minds, and figure out how to stop the cycle, the patterns, because we see the patterns.
Thandi, I think there's a chance, but she would have to, unfortunately, at some point, when she's an adult, which is probably when it will happen, if it can happen, she'll have to make some hard decisions, because she could not heal in that environment. She cannot begin to heal in that environment. It just goes, goes from worse to worse. So at some point, she will have to make some very hard decisions. It's going to be a matter of survival, a matter of her mental and physical survival. She will probably have to separate herself at some point. And that's a hard decision for people to make. I know, I made it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And but I'm resolute.
And things turned out okay.
Well, you know, with me, and Michelle and I were discussing that today. Whenever I do make decisions, they're decisions that aren't made. They're not rash decisions. I've thought about it, and I believe in self-preservation. Even when I was a child, I believe in self-preservation. I can't do anything for the world. I can't contribute anything to the world unless I have self-preservation. And sometimes you have to make very difficult decisions in order to maintain that or obtain it.
Yes.
So it's a matter of, am I going to preserve myself, or what's the alternative? And you have to make decisions sometimes. In order to break that cycle, you have to make decisions. Unfortunately, a lot of times the decision means you have to separate yourself. It's bigger than you. It's not one thing. It's not one person. It's generations of things. So that's how I looked at it.
One thing I like about this story, I think I said it to you, Venita, is thank God Margot and Thandi don't have any babies.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
Michelle was like, they have no babies. Praise the Lord.
Because
that's the good news.
That's a part of what is going wrong. You know, I think Dolores was 13 when Margot was born. Thandi was 9 when she was raped. You know, but a 13, you know, maybe back on the farm, back in the village, hundreds of years ago, maybe a 13-year-old girl could have a baby and raise it just fine. I don't know. But certainly in our modern world, no 13-year-old girl is prepared to mother another human being into healthy adulthood. And so, you know, so Dolores never had time to heal her own wounds from whatever she went through. And so she became a mother, you know, when she was still a very damaged individual. And so certainly when that is the case, we're going to pass that, we're going to project that damage onto our children and damage another generation. So, you know, I mean, I know adults have been trying to give the message ever since we were teenagers, you know, to do your best to not become a teenage parent. But it's still a piece of good advice. And, you know, I don't know. I think it's not as much of a problem in Black America as it to be. Teenage pregnancy, I think it's gone down.
Where?
Here.
Oh, you know, I read an article
Mm.
last year, and they were saying, talking about that, yes, all over America, teenage pregnancy and for African American and girls of color is down, whereas Anglo pregnancy is up. But that's not what they want you to hear because they can't get any money that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the image is that, oh, we have to do something about these pregnant black people in the city. They're overburdening, the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but they're not. I mean, if you look at any of the shows that were popular on reality television, it was white folks with a passel of children. Oh, that was so popular. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's okay. No,
Yeah,
because
but
they're keeping the population up, so that's fine.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
but it's really not okay because children are not equipped to be good parents, and that's what happened in Dolores's family. So
And before Dolores, and during
yeah,
slavery, how
Mm.
was it?
yeah,
How old were the children that were breeded during slavery? At what age
right,
were they and expected to have a certain amount of children within that time frame? This is
right,
Yeah.
right, because it
Mhm.
takes time to heal your own wounds, you know. So I'm just glad that in this story, at least in part one, because Venita and I believe there's going to be a part two to this
it
book.
has to be.
At least in part
Okay.
one, there are no current babies on the scene.
Right.
But babies present our best opportunity to try again to get it right. So
Mhm.
um that's my answer to question 11. You all want to take a quick look at chapter 25?
Sure.
All right, let's see. In chapter 25, newly committed to her studies after being rejected at the dance, Thandi admits to Charles, I don't want to depend on anyone else for my happiness. After seeing for myself what hopelessness really looks like, I realize why her mother didn't want her to mix with certain people. She was trying to save me. Thandi seems to be closing the door to Charles. She eventually runs after him and later in his zinc shed, even though she, in a way, sees Charles for the first time, her history of abuse at the hands of Clover leaves her unable to see or feel him. What do you think this means for Thandi and Charles? Discuss how sexual abuse can impact the lives of women such as Thandi. Is there a way to restore a sexually healthy way of being? I felt so bad for Thandi at the dance. She really had put her little heart into believing that, lighter skin was going to open all of these doors for her. And so it really was a rude awakening to realize that was not the case. But, ultimately, I guess it's good if it put her closer in touch with reality because she's out there.
Yeah.
And she really, I felt bad for her too, her reaction to seeing Charles taking care of his mother, Miss Violet, because she was very, very shaken by that image of um, vulnerability and dependency, hopelessness, and I understand it was a gruesome image to imagine, that you could one day be that helpless. So, but that was really traumatic for her. And then all the trauma that comes out as she's having sex with Charles for the first time. Was really sad. So Charles said in that moment, he said, I should have been more gentle. It was your first time, And I don't know, I guess I wish that there had been more dialogue right there in that moment between the two of them. To kind of process and explore what happened, So, and so I think that's the kind of thing that would go a long way toward restoring a sexually healthy way of being. Anybody else?
Yeah. Well, the scene at the dance made me wonder, well, okay, what did the young man across the floor see by the time she got over to him?
Right.
Because, when you see ladies who use fade cream, and then I watched the video about, you posted about, the horrors of when it goes wrong. So you don't get the eye to match the rest of the skin. So if the guy, I mean, he's a young man. He's used to looking at women and young girls, and he knows, oh, that's what you've been doing. I don't want none of that.
Right.
Really, that's what, like you said, that's what she'd been pinning her hopes on. Yes, I'll be accepted. But even though she said before she got there to that point, all the pretty brown girls and pretty brown boys. So they're brown. What color are you? Okay. Why don't you think you're pretty?
Right.
But you're looking at this mulatto across the room. So,
right.
or maybe it's just the descriptive words that Dennis-Benn is using, because when you call that guy across the room the mulatto, then that means, oh, he's mixed. He with the what's the word they used? The colonizer. And representing some kind of status.
Yeah.
So she's not even able to enjoy herself or being in her own skin. And I think that is probably what goes a long way to restoring a healthy sexual way of being. You have seeing yourself not as a victim, not as someone's property, but as your own. You belong to yourself. And being able to say that you have power over your own body, and then your actions, what you will and won't do, you understand what happened to you, able to process that if something bad happened, or have empathy for something that happened to somebody else, and then be comfortable in your own skin, and be able to communicate to someone your desires. Okay, I understand myself. Now I'm going to tell you how I think you should do it. So they need to be, Thandi and Charles need to be removed from the situation, because there's no way they will prosper there. falling into the rut of poverty and despair, that's what's ahead for them, and tragedy. So yeah, they've got to leave so they can feel like they have possession of themselves.
Yes.
They have control
Yes.
of their destiny and their little dreams that they have.
Yeah.
Well, when Charles' father had the opportunity, he seized it.
Yeah, didn't he though? And uncle. I'm going to America. And then Dolores says, what did she say? Well, if I had that money, I'd go to America too. And I'm thinking, woman, you're not even thinking about, I'm taking my children and we're leaving. No. I'm going to America. Like, all kinds of selfish.
That's why it's so hard for me to, during that other scene, for me to imagine that she actually felt something at the horror of seeing Thandi bleaching her skin. And, you don't want to be like, I don't know, Dolores. Dolores is not stable. She has lots of mental issues, and I just didn't see that.
Yeah.
What do you think about Thandi and Charles?
Thandi and Charles. I love Charles. And that's my hope. Those two are my hope. Thandi and Charles. Charles is just. I know Charles's. I knew Charles's in my life. That they were just sprinkled down the wrong place. And that's what I see Charles as. I know he loves his family and he's trying to be as much of a man as he can be. But Charles just sprinkled down the wrong place. And unless Charles removes himself, as I see Thandi doing the same, then Charles he just has so much to give, and he'll never be able to give it. He'll just become another means to justify the end. And I just can't see that for Charles. They should have, and as far as Charles and Thandi and the sex, that shouldn't have happened anyway. And I think Charles said what he said because there was no more dialogue, really. I think Charles is just trying to ease the discomfort at that moment. Because I don't think Charles can actually go beyond that. Even if the author did, it just wouldn't have fit because Charles has so much other heavy going on. We know he's sensitive, but I don't think he has the capacity at that point to go beyond just trying to ease the discomfort with those few words. Really.
Right.
So I think the author did as much as she could do at that moment because they shouldn't have been there anyway. It sends a message. Huh? Because and that's what's so good about writing and the way she left things. I think that they should have massaged the friendship longer.
I like the way you put that. Massage the friendship.
Yeah, because it's the sex is a matter of factly, I think, between the two of them. It's just a matter of factly. It's that friendship. I wanted to see that develop more. I want to see more support and more understanding from both of them about each other's lives, where I saw Thandi supporting him more and he supporting her and understanding and growing into how you can do that. And then I wanted to see that later. So that was
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I wanted to see.
It was too early.
It's too early, and they got so much learning to do. And I think they're good friends. I think the friendship, they need that friendship. And I think they need to be, massage that. This what I hear was just kind of like thrown up in there to me.
Well, do you think that she did it that way because that's kind of the cycle of the life on the island? You are forced into being physically intimate whether you want to or not.
Maybe she was trying to bring that message home. I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know if it's just the island.
Well,
okay. You think it's just teenage hormones?
Yeah. Well, and not, not
It's all over.
not necessarily even teenage. I mean, I just think that that practice, that art of getting to know each other before jumping into bed is it's almost a lost art.
It's pretty much a lost art. I think only the OGs and maybe a few, and I'm not going to generalize because that wouldn't be an intelligent thing to say, but from what I'm seeing, with the pop culture, that is a lost. It's hopefully it'll come back, and I want to see it with them. But it is a pretty much lost art. You know, only the OGs are thinking about, like me. I want to see more of the friendship, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way it is today. No.
No, and I think it's an outcome of the sexual what was it called? Revolution. Which needed to happen, and
Okay.
I'm fully in support of Nicole. But nevertheless, I think that there have been some outcomes, that are real. And so Venita is talking about, more of the friendship. Well, without that friendship, then there's very little bonding that seems to go on between people these days. Very little commitment to sticking with each other through whatever. And so if we threw out the friendship for sexual freedom, that's a significant loss. I think.
I don't know if it really started with the millennium or the younger generation. I remember back in our day, I think it kind of started with us. You know, we had that Black Power movement.
Well, that's what the sexual revolution was started in the 60s.
Right, but I'm saying in my generation, I know when it started, but our generation was really embracing I'm an individual. You know what I'm saying? That because women were, it's just, I don't know, it's different. It was there was a lot of sexuality going on, but it was a different feeling. It still moved a little different. Maybe it's just me because we were in that time, but I still felt like we moved different. There was still a boundary.
Yes.
That's what it was. That's what it was. There was a lot of sexuality, a lot of everything that's going on, but there was some cutoff point. It's just. But now it seems like there's no cutoff. There's no boundaries. It's just like I can be an animal today if I want to. I mean, we did have something. It's something that was there that just, I can't describe it, but it just had that we moved a lot different. There was sex going on. There was rock and roll. There was R&B. There was all kinds of stuff, but it still was. Maybe I'm just an OG. Maybe it was the same. We just don't recognize it.
No, I don't think so. I think maybe we experienced in having relationships. Okay. And that's something we desired. Whereas today, I saw a disappointing article where the sale of underage sex dolls is skyrocketing. And I'm like, what is wrong with
What you
people?
say?
Underage, underage sex dolls is skyrocketing. So that means you have a bunch of people with way out there kinky predilections, uh, not having real relationships with
Oh, yeah.
people, and the doll market is up. That's what
I
and
read something.
especially the underage doll market. I'm like, what's wrong with
Yeah,
you?
I did read an article, something
Mm.
similar to that. That you don't
So
have to have relationships anymore. You get your doll, you're good to
yes.
go.
Uh-huh. So, and that's probably part of why, that getting to know a person and friendship, and in turn understanding, getting to know yourself, they don't need that because they want everything now. Because I can get
Mhm.
that now. Because I can order it now. you know
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
so we don't have that, and they who these people out here trying to get instant gratification,
Yeah.
neither desire nor know how to have real relationships with people of the same sex, opposite sex. They can have they hold people who, and nothing against people who love their pets, because you can love your pet, but if that is your family, then there's a problem.
Well,
Okay.
Georgette,
Okay.
hate to break it to you. A lot of folks got some problems.
Yes, they do, because they'll put a
Okay.
person in jail for mistreating a dog, but
Gotta keep that in
babies
mind.
don't do that no more.
Not so
Here's a
much.
fine. Okay.
Well, society has groomed everyone that way. I mean, even me, and I'm not a conformist. But how long can you fight the power? You can't call people. Don't you call nobody on the phone. If
Yes,
I
they
didn't
don't.
talk to Michelle, I would not talk. And that's why we have those hour-long conversations, 4 or 5 times
Yeah.
a week. I'm telling
Yes.
you, you don't ring that phone if you want to. They don't
I
answer. You get a
know.
text.
And they will have the phone right there. See you calling. And
Nope.
no, they prefer to text. Why? And now
Text.
they've lost the skill of
There
talking to
is no.
somebody, a
They don't want
human
to do
being.
that, and they don't have good communication skills. Once again,
Yeah.
and they've been groomed that way. Society's groomed them to be faceless and nameless. Don't call me, text me, and you text. See, we OGs. We be texting with apostrophes and commas and
We
paragraphs.
got some
Spelling
flavor
out the
in
whole
there.
word.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
you're
know that there's certain individuals in my family be like, really?
all
No, I mean, really. And I be getting all long winded. Next thing I'm running out of characters, and I got to send that and go on. They
right.
don't want that.
Okay.
You want to trigger millennium? Start texting and paragraphs and with commas and apostrophes and all this and punctuate. They don't play with you like that. In and out.
They probably didn't read it. Oh, I read the first line, but did you read the part about the
No,
monster coming
no,
to the
and they
door?
don't
No.
like that. They don't like that. They don't say it to me. I can feel it though. The hesitation behind their text.
Yeah,
And when they text
yeah.
it back, it's one line. And that just and I got
Yeah.
all this book down here. So no, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want long text. But don't call them. You got to text. Make it short, and watch what you say. Please be politically
Yes,
correct at all times. Because if you say one
yes.
word outside the political correctness, talking about respectability, it's a thin line between the correctness and respectability that people are talking about. Because everybody's
Mhm.
triggered today.
Yeah.
So you constantly,
Mm.
at this point, I have to conform. I don't even want to talk to you now. See, that's becoming the problem for me. Because I'm so afraid that I'm not politically correct. I'm so afraid that I don't know the latest political correct way of saying something. I'm so afraid of triggering you to now I'm like, you don't want me to talk on the phone. I don't know what to say if I do because you want a different. So I call Michelle.
Okay.
No,
And
but is
Michelle
that the way
picks
it is
up the
today,
phone.
or is it just me, Georgette? Is that the way it is, or am I the only person feeling that? That
No,
you're
probably
constantly
there's a lot of people in the same box. That's why Netflix is so popular, because they're not out there talking to people. They're watching a movie.
But I really
Yeah.
wanted to see that. And the sexual
Yeah.
abuse, discuss how sexual abuse can impact the lives of women such as Thandi. I have not been a victim of sexual abuse, but God knows I know a lot of women and girls that have. I can't imagine, but I really don't. You really can't, I can't. I wouldn't be fair for me to. I haven't been a victim. Only a victim knows. Only a victim knows how they feel. Only a victim knows the damage that's been done. Only a victim knows how it affects their life every day. So I just would not venture out to.
Well, one of the impacts was shown as an example in the book, with Thandi at a critical moment being flooded with all of these memories of what Clover did to her when she was 9 years old. And so now she's 16. So between 9 and 16, she hasn't really had much active memory, conscious memory of that event. But then as she is having consensual sex for the first time, all of those memories of what happened with Clover come back to her. And so she's misdirecting and taking out her pain, her anger, her trauma on Charles. And so I think, in a similar way to what we were saying earlier about Dolores blaming the wrong person for whatever she experienced, that can be an outcome for women that have been sexually abused. Is you can end up hating all men, and of course, just for the sake of political correctness, it's not only little girls that get raped. It's not only boys and men that do the raping. Women and girls can sexually abuse people as well. And in fact, if you yourself have been sexually abused, there is a higher risk that you will become a sexually abusive person. And so, so it's all about how much consciousness, the healing process, how much consciousness you can bring to remembering what happened, and looking at the impact that it has, or the potential impact that it has on your life. And so to the extent that you're conscious, you have some ability to kind of direct your actions and your thinking. But to the extent that you're in a subconscious state, then all kinds of things are happening that you really don't have any control over. So as she's biting and scratching and beating Charles, she's in a subconscious state, but the brain is very powerful. And so it is trying to, the brain actually shuts down memories when it feels that it needs to do that to protect you. when it feels you're not ready to handle the reality of what's happening to you. And so as you grow and develop and get stronger, and your brain believes that you can now handle dealing with reality, it starts bringing those memories back to you. And so that's what was happening to Thandi. And so, you know, I'm sure it was a very confusing time for her. And I said earlier, I wish her and Charles could have had more dialogue, but, you know, but what I know is she didn't really understand why she was doing what she was doing. And, you know, the only thing that I would have hoped would have come out of more dialogue is that they would have both acknowledged there's some kind of, you know, there's some kind of problem here. And we need to try to get to the bottom of it. We need to try to bring it to the surface. And so what he did in saying, it's, you know, it's my fault, I should have been more gentle, it was your first time, he was taking responsibility for the problem, but it really wasn't his problem. He was gentle, you know. And so the issue is how to make her conscious of what she's been through.
How old is Charles?
How
old is Charles? I forgot
how old is he?
Yeah.
I think he's around 18, a little bit older than her, but not much.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you couldn't expect much from a you know, a boy that age. In terms of
Charles he's seen a lot of stuff.
He has.
And that's why it has to be a part 2. Because Charles is very wise, I still believe, for his age, because the responsibilities that he had to assume at a very young age. But Charles got a lot of, I want to see some more. I got to know what's going on with Charles and Thandi. That's my pretty much main focus. Those two characters is, you know, they're kind of like my semi-heroes before you even get the heroism going. You know, it's like I just have this that hope that someone's going to break the cycle. Somebody's going to be able to escape this abuse, this constant cycle of abuse. I have to, this author, what is she writing that book to? Because
well, hopefully I'm going to get to see her this week. She's at an event in New York.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to try to go to Thursday evening.
Well, that's so cool, Michelle. Now, you know, you got to ask all these questions that we have here in the group.
Well, actually,
yes.
Yeah, actually, if I can get close enough to her to talk to her, I do want to try to invite her to maybe come and sit with us on the last day of session 10. So, you know, that may or may not work out, but I'm going to extend the invitation nonetheless. You know, so anyway, cool. It's 8:34, and there are only 3 of us here, and I know we could go on for hours.
And you know what it is, Georgette? We miss you so much. I know I miss you so much. Is that when you come, I'm so glad you're here tonight. I just don't want to see you go.
Oh, Venita, you're so sweet.
Really, I miss you. It's not the same when you're not here. I'm so glad to see you. So will we see you next week?
I hope
so.
And
actually, we'll be gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, we are? Oh, there's a break.
We're on break for 2 weeks?
We're on break next week.
Oh, that's right. We have the Easter also holidays coming up. You don't forget about Easter.
I don't know if it coincides at all with Easter. It just came up as a regular break in our schedule. But anyway, so we're off next week, and then we come back the following week, and I'll be the facilitator that night, even though actually Leonie owes me one. So we'll see.
Okay.
All right, ladies. Well, I'll talk to you later. I hope to see you in a couple of weeks, Georgette.
All
Take care of
right. You
yourself.
too. I'll
Okay,
try.
good
You
night.
too. Okay, love.
Good night.
Good night. Have a good week.
You too.
Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.